Welcome back, everybody, to the Slices of Seattle. We got a little bit of Mariners news we're going to go and talk about. Not a ton of Kraken news at the moment. We did sign a couple guys, and the Seahawks, they've done a lot of some of their kind of training camps and practices. So there's a little bit of news about that. But we won't go into everything because there's not a lot to talk about the Kraken or the Seahawks. But there is a lot of Mariners news at the moment. So let's jump into it. First off, Randy Johnson is going to get his number retired, as will Ichiro. They both wore number 51. Two Mariners legends getting their numbers retired, which is phenomenal. Both of them were great in their own respect. Ichiro obviously just recently got inducted into the Hall of Fame, so he will have his number retired. His number, both their numbers. Well, he'll have his retirement ceremony this year, and then Randy Johnson will have his number retirement ceremony the next year. So both of them, they'll kind of be a co-retirement, which it's a little unfortunate that they wore the same number, so they don't each get their own number retired. But just two Mariners legends who wore number 51, we're gonna have them retired. And it was funny. I was watching Randy Johnson's no hitter on TV. They were doing a rerun of it, and so I went back and watched it back in on June 2nd, 1990. It's something else to see a guy who's 6'10" and a lefty throwing just straight heat. And it's just super fun to watch. If you get a chance, go back and watch that because it's great because you got Rick Riz and you got Dave Niehaus on the call for it. Two absolutely phenomenal Mariners broadcasters, but just baseball broadcasters in general. Just both of them just really great. Dave Niehaus, he was on the call for the ninth inning when Brandy closed it out. And you gotta love Dave Niehaus. Just such great energy on that. The last strikeout of the game, Randy Johnson gets his no hitter, the first no hitter in Mariners history. So I mean, it was just such a crazy moment. Just a guy who's one of the best pitchers in all of baseball, and it's funny to me that he will, for a lot of people, he's only remembered as the guy who killed the bird when he threw the ball and just exploded this bird into a million pieces. But he's so much more than that. So go back and watch some of Randy Johnson's highlights. You can take this moment to remember him. He's just such a great pitcher. So well deserved, big unit. So there's that bit of Mariners news. But hey, the other guy we got to talk about right now, Cal Raleigh, is just absolutely destroying the baseball. 6 home runs in the last 6 games. No one in baseball is doing that right now. He's leading Major League Baseball with 23 home runs. He's beaten out Shohei Ohtani, who is the best designated hitter in the MLB at the moment. He's hitting more home runs than him. And when you think about it, I believe Cal's getting paid about $100 million total on his contract, and then Shohei's getting paid about $700 million on his contract. So he's getting paid about 7 times more than Cal Raleigh, and Cal Raleigh is neck and neck with him in the home run race. I mean, it's not. I'm not saying that Cal Raleigh is over or that Shohei Ohtani is overpaid, but I mean, come on, Cal Raleigh, the amount of production we're getting out of him, an over 1,000 OPS from a catcher. He's and I was looking on it. I was looking at it, and just in catchers in general, NL, AL doesn't matter. Cal Raleigh is leading so many categories. Home runs, obviously, but I mean, he's just so far ahead of everybody else in both the NL and the AL. So that's why, and this is a good segue, talking about the fact that I think that Cal Raleigh is 1,000% going to be the AL All Star catcher. There's just no debate. There's just no debate about it. Because not only is he better than most catchers, or in the top of most catchers, he's better. He's hitting better than a lot of the guys in the league right now. Better than Aaron Judge or Shohei. Not necessarily based on average. Obviously, Aaron Judge is having a pretty good year average wise and hitting home runs. Um, but just I think compared to every other catcher in the league, and even narrowing that down to the AL, Cal Raleigh is he's in a league of his own opposed to all the other catchers. So no doubt in my mind that Cal Raleigh is going to be an all star for the American League as a catcher. I just wrote an article. It's out on the Daily Evergreen talking about who's on the Mariners All Star watch list at the moment. Obviously, Cal Raleigh for very obvious reasons, but the two other people I have, and obviously, please go give it a read. I have a little bit more details in that article about all of this. But the other two people I have being the All Stars for the Mariners, I have potentially, this is potentially too, and a lot of it rests on them having really good months of June. Because the All Star game isn't for about a month away, so there's a lot that can happen, a lot of games in between that. But at the moment, I have on pace Julio. Julio for to be the AL center fielder, there's a possibility. He's got some pretty tough competition. I mean, Trent Grisham, Byron Buxton, and Javier Baez are the three other center fielders that I think might give him a run for his money. But you look at it, you because like when I was thinking about it, Julio didn't seem to me like he's on pace to be an all star. But when I was looking at his stats, he's kind of up there neck and neck with a lot of these guys in terms of like average, on base percentage, OPS, hits, RBIs. He's kind of right there with them. So the thing is if I think that if Julio has a very hot month of June, just hits the ball really well, keeps playing great defense, and his defense could be a real big reason why he ends up being going to the All Star game. Keeps up his defense, how he's been playing, gets hot at the plate, maybe hits a few more home runs. That might push him over the edge to being an All Star. I think that'd be great. The 2024 was the first year he wasn't an All Star. He was an All Star in 2022, in 2023. I believe 2024 was the first year of him being in the big leagues where he hasn't gone to the All Star game because he didn't quite have that good of a year in 2024. So I think that this year could be the return of Julio to the All Star game if he has a good month of June. And then the third person I think could possibly be an All Star for the Mariners, is Andres Munoz. I mean, it didn't help that he gave up his first earned runs of the season. His last two appearances against the Minnesota Twins. He gave up 4 runs, which isn't great. He went from having a perfect 0 ERA to now it's 1.4, I believe, at the moment. But you set that aside, the fact that he's got 1.4 ERA, he's a closer. He's supposed to have a pretty lower ERA possibly. Um, he leads the MLB in saves, 17 saves. It's absolutely amazing. That's 17 clutch performances. In 26 appearances, he's come in and gotten the save 17 times. That is absolutely clutch. That is something that we need because we are a team. Mariners historically are a team of 1 run baseball games. We win by 1 run or we lose by 1 run or we win by 2 runs. It's really close all the time. That's kind of the culture that's been built here over the years of Mariners baseball. So having a guy who can come in there and put up 17 saves already, lead the MLB, that is super clutch. That is a guy that we need in our bullpen, and he's been getting the job done. And people want to say like, oh, he just gave up these 4 runs against the Minnesota Twins. He's not looking as good. I don't think so at all. I think that he was bound to give up some runs eventually. It's impossible, I think, as a closer to go the entire season without at least giving up a run or a couple runs. So he's going to show a couple cracks, but I think that he's going to get back on track. And I think that if he has a good month of June, picks up more saves, and just keeps on pace for what he's possibly going to do, he 100% could be an all star for the AL. I think he would be a super, super good bookend for this team because I think you could probably have, Tarek Skubal, somebody like that, one of the great pitchers that are in the AL, start that game. And then you could have a guy like Andres Munoz come in and close it. Those are two great bookends. So that would be a really fun All Star game is to have some of the greatest starting pitchers in the AL and then have arguably, statistically speaking, one of the best closers in all of Major League Baseball and probably most likely in all of the AL too, close out that game. So I think that would be absolutely super electric. But yeah, those are basically my 3 picks for who could possibly be all stars for the Mariners, just in terms of, at their position, they're standing out. And that would be Cal Raleigh, for obvious reasons, Julio, and then Andres Munoz. Everybody else, I was looking at them, they're all great, but the problem is, like, JP for shortstop. There are a lot of other shortstops that I think will probably beat him out for that AL shortstop all star position. Randy in left field, same thing. There are other outfielders I think are probably better than him. Third base, Ben Williamson, he's not competing with anybody at the moment. First base, Ronnie Telez isn't even playing every single game. And so it's kind of this thing where it's like, I don't really. And second base is a black hole at the moment. That's just like we're a revolving door of different guys. So nobody else really stands out to me at their position for possibly being an all star besides those 3. So that's kind of what I got right now. But we've got a couple series coming up. I want to talk about the fact that George Kirby, I believe, is going to he's going to have a start in these coming games. Look, he's gotten 2 starts already coming off of his injury. Basically, after his rehab stint with the Tacoma Rainiers, and he's coming back and he's getting these 2 starts, his first couple starts of the season, and they've been they've been rocky. They haven't necessarily been the George Kirby that we are familiar with. Um, and so, if you were to ask me, looking at this performance coming up for Kirby, right? What are we expecting out of this? I expect prime Kirby. I was listening to Seattle Sports 710. They were talking about this, and I 100% agree with them. Um, you've had your two strikes where you've been hit around a little bit. You haven't looked like the George Kirby of before. So now you're coming to your third start, and let me tell you, if you're not producing in that third start, if you're not looking like your velo's not up to what it should be, and your control and your secondary pitches and your ability to get out of innings and your ability to get out of tough situations, if it's not looking like it used to be when a year ago when you were healthy, then I might sort of think there's something wrong. And potentially, in my opinion, I would say you send him down, bring up somebody like Logan Evans, who I was so frustrated that we sent Logan Evans back down to the minors after he went 8 innings of just lockdown baseball. It was so fun to watch. I was watching that game, and Logan Evans he's so young and he's able to do that. And I'll admit, I was kind of a Logan Evans hater a little bit. I didn't think he kind of had what it takes to be on a Major League Baseball team. I didn't think his velo was there. I didn't think his secondary pitches were quite that good. And he proved me wrong. He had one of the greatest games I've seen. 8 innings of just electric baseball, and he was an innings eater. He was super efficient, got out of that game quick. And I mean, then the fact that the very next day, it wasn't like a couple days later or a week later or anything like that. The very next day after that performance, they sent him down to Tacoma. And that just absolutely blew my mind. I was frustrated, so frustrated. And we got brought up a right handed reliever, which I'm really frustrated about it. And I know a lot of people have been talking about the fact that the Mariners have said that they're not going to go to a 6-man rotation. They're going to stay with 5 men, right? And they want that extra spot basically for another reliever, so a little bit of depth in the bullpen. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that we should do a 6-man rotation because I think you know because a lot of times when you look at it, the Mariners have relievers in their bullpen that they don't ever really use. We don't ever lean on them late in those ball games. So you're sacrificing one really quality arm that could get you another start for a guy in your bullpen who you might not ever even lean on. So in my opinion, I would say you go with the 6-man rotation, right? Sacrifice one reliever to bring up a pitcher, starting pitcher like Logan Evans, who can go 8 innings of lockdown baseball like he did. Now, again, do I think that that's a fluke? Do I think that, that's what we're going to see every day from Logan Evans? I don't think we're going to see it every day from Logan Evans, but I definitely don't think it's a fluke. I definitely don't think it was a one off. I think that's the kind of stuff you're going to see from Logan Evans possibly moving forward or something close to it, something like lockdown baseball like that. Clearly, he was looking good on the mound. He was feeling comfortable. So, in my opinion, the Mariners need to go to a 6-man rotation, and that should involve Logan Evans. I think they did him dirty when they sent him down to Tacoma. That was just absolutely awful and super, super frustrating. So, that's basically all I got from the Mariners. For the Seahawks, they were doing some of their outdoor practices, just getting a lot of these new guys, a lot of these rookies intermingled with a lot of the veterans. Sam Darnold there's been some news talking about the fact that he threw 2 picks in practice with each within a couple snaps of each other. So a lot of people are kind of like not freaking out, but they're kind of just like, oh, he doesn't look as good. That's not a great sign that he's threw these 2 interceptions in practice. And I mean, I don't necessarily disagree with you. I kind of agree that it's not the best look. It doesn't seem great. It doesn't look like, that's not what I want to see out of Sam Darnold. But at the same time, am I going to sit here and freak out over that and think that he shouldn't be our starting quarterback? No. Mike McDonald he was on Seattle Sports 710 today, this morning. He was talking with Brock and Salk, and he was mentioning the fact, well, because Salk had asked him, he went, is there anything, talking about those 2 picks, right? And he kind of looked a little shaky, Sam Darnold. Is there anything besides an injury, obviously, that would make Sam Darnold not be QB number 1 on this team? And Mike McDonald shot that down so quick. Basically, just said you're crazy for asking that. And he goes, Sam Darnold is our QB number 1, not Drew Lock, not Jalen Milrow. Nothing's going to change that except for an injury for obvious reasons. And I mean, that's some confidence in your quarterback, especially in your QB1 and a veteran quarterback like Sam Darnold, right? So, I mean, yeah, I'm kind of with Mike McDonald on that. It's one of the first couple, real practices of the year. There's going to be kinks to work out, and people are freaking out. He threw two interceptions. I would not be too concerned about it. It's way too early to know how good the Seahawks team is going to be, know what problems there are, and be judging guys based off of a couple reps in practice. That's my take on the matter. So if you're sitting here and you're freaking out over Sam Darnold throwing two picks in practice, calm down a little bit. All right. But besides that, the Kraken did recently hire Lane Lambert, the former assistant coach from the Toronto Maple Leafs. Um, Look, that was not on my radar whatsoever. They were talking about Rick Tocchet or something like that, and everyone's talking about all these other coaches they were looking at going and getting, and then all of a sudden Lane Lambert came out of left field that we were going to get him, and he was going to be our head coach. So I mean, I'm not. This is the thing is I'm kind of on the fence about it. I don't know how necessarily I feel about him. Um, am I going to sit here and say like, yeah, now we got Lane Lambert, we're going to ourselves back to the postseason? I don't know. There's probably going to be more media coming out about him, and you figure out his coaching style and what moves the team's going to make in the offseason. It rests really heavily on who we're going to pick up in the offseason. Because I don't think that the head coach is going to be the reason why we're going to get back to the postseason and have a good year. I definitely think that it's going to rely on who we pick up in the offseason. Go get some guys in free agency, maybe trade for some guys. Do I love that we signed a lot of some of our younger guys? I think like Ben Hayden and somebody else we signed for some kind of short-term deals. No, I'd written an article previously talking about the fact that I think that we should probably cut some of those younger guys. And, maybe Josh Mahura, Ben Hayden, or someone like that. Kale Fleury, I think, was one of the guys I had on there. Who they're young guys, but I just don't think that they're not producing for us. So you can either cut them or possibly trade them. And I think, you should be able to use those guys in the offseason as a trade package, or you cut them, free up some spending. But you just gotta use this offseason. There are a lot of guys you can go get and add some superstars to the team. Because I was thinking about this the other day. I was listening to that 93.3 KJR. They were talking about the fact that they were talking about Lane Lambert getting hired. And one of the things they brought up, and I 1000% agree with them, is the fact that the Seattle Kraken do not have a superstar. And I've been saying this actually for a long time. We do not have a superstar. And anybody who comes at me and says, well, what about Matty Beniers? What about Shane Wright? That's not even an argument. Matty Beniers and Shane Wright are not superstars. They're not. Look at guys like Connor McDavid, McKinnon, McCarr, Rantanen. These guys are superstars. Superstars. And you can tell it in the way that they play. And they play such good hockey, such competitive hockey, such skilled hockey, that they make guys like Matty Beniers and Shane Wright look ridiculous. Right? Now, don't get me wrong. Matty Beniers and Shane Wright are talented hockey players and young talented hockey players. And they probably have a pretty high ceiling. They can play way better than they're playing right now. But am I going to sit here and say that Matty Beniers and Shane Wright are superstars? Absolutely not. Not. The only way we're going to get a superstar, I think, right now, at this moment, is by going and trading for him. Or going and in free agency, making an offer to get somebody, right? Mitch Marner is going to be a free agent this offseason. Do I think that we're going to get him? Probably not. I think there are a lot of other teams who probably rather sign with and who probably have more money to be able to go get him. But I think, and of course, there's also Berkeley Catan right now, who I was mentioning before in our last Slices of Seattle segment. He had a historic year with the in the WHL. I want to say he plays for the Firebirds, and I think he does. But he is looking pretty tight. He's looking pretty solid. He scored over 100 points in the minors. So I think that, and again, do I know if he's going to be fully baked enough to come up and play next year? I don't know. Possibly, maybe. It might be another year before we really get him up there to start playing. But I'm not sure. Kraken have the 8th pick in the draft this year, which I think we were supposed to have the sixth pick, and then we fell to the 8th. which is not necessarily great for the Seattle Kraken. We need some young talent because our current young talent is not really panning out. But yeah, besides that, that's all the Kraken news I got. And then not very much Seahawks news. We went through all the stuff for the Mariners. So yeah, this will do it for this segment of Slices of Seattle. Go ahead and please give us a follow, like, comment. You have any questions, concerns, hot takes, anything, leave them in the comments. I'd love to answer them. If you have any questions you want answered on air, put them in the comments. I will, every single question you guys send us our way, we will answer. So thank you. And remember, it's a great day to have a great day.